afternoon, everyone. This is a special call meeting of the Fort Myers Beach Town Council. Vice Mayor Murphy, Councilman Butcher, Councilmember Hossafras, Councilmember Champ are all present, myself included, Anita Saracita. Town Clerk Michelle Mayer, Town Manager Roger Hernstadt, Town Attorney John Herron. We also have in attendance Chief Matt Love of the Fort Myers Beach Fire Control District. We have a newly elected council member Dan Allers present in the room, Fire Commissioner Ron Fleming in the room, and various media and assorted guests, plus representative from the Lee County Sheriff's Office. Thank you for being here, sir. Folks, as you know, I have had everyday conversations with Senator Benaquisto's office, Commissioner Hammond, County Manager Roger DeJarle. This morning, the call also included Dr. Laura Hannon, a member of the school board, member of the community of Boca Grande, and of course all of the mayors of the cities. I am going to reflect in my statement right this second a very strong comment that is a unified comment you will hear whether you're on Sanibel, Bonita Springs, Cape Coral, or Boca Grande. That statement is that spring break is over in Lee County. Spring break is over on Fort Myers Beach. And our beach is closed as of 6 p.m. today. What I'd like to do right now is before you have a declaration of emergency regulations. Mr. Herron has reviewed it. You'll see some little pieces that still need to be clarified. I'd like to go member by member of the board to just have you give me if you have heard something particular that needs to be addressed by the council and another council member agrees, let's discuss that. Then we'll move on to any other particulars that someone wishes to discuss. I will open public comment again this morning, afternoon. I would ask you to be respectful in your comments, as always. Manager Roger Hernstadt, I'm certain will have some comments as well, as will Town Attorney John Herron. But I'd like to start with you, Vice Mayor. Is there anything that you feel is important that we discuss today?
Yeah, I do. In response to your question, Madam Chair, about any particulars, people did have asked me since our meeting yesterday with the declaration that was made, whether or not there was a little bit of confusion at the end of the meeting whether or not people would be permitted to walk on the beach per se for their morning walk or their evening walk or whatever, and also whether or not they'd be able to swim in the Gulf of Mexico or, for that matter, fish. Those were some of the questions that I've received, I mean, amongst others, but why don't we just start with those?
I'll put those on the list. I'm sure everyone agrees we should discuss that for clarification.
And I'd also like to reserve some comments for...
Sure. Bruce.
My son calling from Iraq.
Please take the call. Come back to you, Bruce. Bruce, do you want me to stop the meeting for a moment? No. Roxanne?
I agree with what Ray has indicated. I have spent the last 24 hours assuring everyone, yes, they were still allowed to walk on the beach. And so I see that seems to be changed in here, and I'm not pleased to see that. I've spent all this time trying to assure everybody. I think we need to stop doing things and changing. What we did yesterday was sufficient, and I would love to for everybody to sit up here and say, we did a good job yesterday. People are going home. It's working. Recess.
Joanne?
Now, what I'm going to say, we're not doing enough. We say our beaches are closed, and then we say, yeah, go ahead, walk around on the beaches. Our beaches aren't closed. We're here today.
We're going to discuss that.
Okay, we're here today to save lives and to save our healthcare system.
That's correct.
Thank you. Want me to go through my issues?
I want you to tell me if there's a particular issue you would like to discuss, and we'll come back to it.
Okay, I have a list.
Okay?
And I can give you a copy of the list if you want, so you don't have to.
Okay?
I think that we need to inform the public by providing electronic signage at our entry bridges, provide informational electronic signage at the high-density areas of Times Square and Santini. We need to provide signage at our beach accesses that the access is closed, parking, and then list the federal CDC regulations of gatherings of no more than 10 people and maintaining 6-foot separation between individuals. I think we need to provide up-to-date emergency information on the town's website. Protect the public, I think we need to prepare and make sure our hurricane reentry pass program is updated in
I'm going
case.
to stop you on that one just because I think that is something to discuss. Does anyone else wish to discuss I've had many questions from people about, do we need our hurricane reentry passes? Does anyone else agree to discuss that? I'd like to discuss it. Go ahead, Joanne.
I would go further. I do believe that we should keep open grocery store, pharmacies, gas station, post offices, and convenience stores previously licensed to sell food. But I believe we should go where bars, pubs, and restaurants have no on-site dining. I think we should close our public parking and set them up as drive-through areas for provision of restaurant takeout and service. I think we should waive the sign ordinance for restaurants that do provide delivery and takeout service to the
Stop
community.
you again, and let's just use the general category of bars and restaurants.
Yes.
I will tell you that the direction, and we are trying to have a unified action and direction for every municipality and the county. Current direction from those entities is to leave bars and restaurants in the line of the governor's guidelines. So I particularly am, since I agreed with everyone to that today, that's how I would proceed with that today. But again, that could change tomorrow. But, go ahead.
I think that non-essential retail establishments should be closed. I think it's unfair to expose the workers and the people for knowing what we know about contamination, to expose people. County pier closed. I think all town properties have closed. We should be closing Times Square.
Anyone
And-
want to discuss the closure of Times Square?
Yes.
Bridge catwalk under the bridge closed. That's county for the fishing area. I think we should be closing the parking under the bridge that can be used as drive-through for fruit services as needed. Those old San Carlos parking meters owned by the town allow parking for pickup from restaurants and allow the restaurants to have signage for such food delivery. And I think that we should, if we really want to stop spring break, we should have a curfew of 10. Young kids don't like to go home early. Senator Rick Scott said today to spring breakers, "What are you thinking? Please go home." We need to encourage that behavior. We need to provide safety for our community. And I know I may be the strongest, most conservative voice, but I'm proud to be that voice.
Joanne, believe me, you're not the strongest, most conservative voice. There are many voices echoing those same sentiments. The collective, a unified message is that we are doing our best on all fronts to protect the public, and particulars of that may vary, but There's some pretty intense voices out there, believe me.
We are a town of 7,000 residents, so we need to protect them.
That's true. Okay, so, Bruce, did you have anything to add?
Much covered it. However, notice that one restaurant in particular has a bar on Estero Boulevard, has their bar chairs to one another all the way up and down. When they say got 50% of the tables, 50% of the bar chairs too. So I don't think that's a loophole. Or maybe close all bar service and serve at tables. Parking was a question I had, I brought up. And can I make a comment about this?
Sure.
On item 4, it identifies what the beach is,
Yes.
but it doesn't say what about it.
It refers to the statement in number 1 that the following things are closed, suspended, canceled. Refers to that. But that certainly could be clearer. Certainly could be clearer.
I mean, it doesn't say the beach is closed, and then if we do add the beach is closed, what does that mean?
Just while you were out of the room, I said, I've spent the last 24 hours, we're allowed to go walk on the beach. So it makes no sense to me to say the beach is closed.
And everybody's been telling them, everybody's been saying that to
So-
people. But on Friday, we also we had none of these restrictions.
I get that, but there needs to be a rational nexus between what we're doing and whether it achieves something. And to me, if people want to go out and walk on the beach and they're not bothering anybody and they're staying away from everyone,
It's not happening.
well, I've seen it happen.
I saw it happen at 10 a.m., and by noon, the beach was busy again. Yes, Joanne?
May I comment with regard to beach versus EC? Because within our land development code, those are two very different things, and I think that it's important that we be clear. EC zone is that imaginary line from the buildings seaward. And that includes the dunes and everything else. And the decks and porches of restaurants and businesses that extend across there that have been given the right for COP in that zone, which I think we should stop right now.
Okay, so,
Didn't we
As
do that
compared to
yesterday?
the beach, we did do that yesterday, but as compared to I'm just saying, when you use the word beach in here compared to EC zone, beach is a totally different definition.
Got it.
So I think we need to be careful about the
Mr. Herron,
terminology.
can you just make a note of that for 4? So one of the questions that I've received most of is, are the trolleys and the tram service running? As of 6 p.m. today, that will be suspended. There will be no trolley service, no tram service on Fort Myers Beach. There will be no trolley tram service in Sanibel or Bonita Springs either. So let's start with defining, can they walk on the beach? Can they fish? Can they swim? Can they do any of that? County's declaration is that the beach is closed as of 6 p.m. We tried yesterday to quote Senator Benaquisto, be nimble about that. The current advisory guidelines is that we not be nimble or not be flexible, and that our visitors and guests be told that they may not utilize the beach in any way.
And residents.
And residents, that's residents and visitors.
Are we also going to tell people they can't walk on the sidewalk?
No, we're not.
See, to me, what's the difference? If Joanne is right, she may well be, and you should be banning people from the sidewalks as well, if you're going to say people can't walk on the beach. To me, you're making a distinction without a difference.
I think, may I? I think the difference is, Rexanne, is that on the beach, there's more of a tendency for people to congregate. Wouldn't really necessarily get that on the sidewalks. Although we do stop, I walk my dog several times a day, I do stop and talk to people, but usually people are going like this. That's not the case on the beach. Now, I'm not taking a position, that playing devil's advocate here. So, if you say, well, then we'll let people walk out on the beach, now what you have is not only our people, but our guests and all the other tourists and everything. They just walk out and they set up camp or whatever and decide, well, if we can do this much, we can do this much. So it's really boils down to a question of whether you close it or you don't. Because I don't think there's any in between at this point. It's either all or nothing.
So are we going to send the National Guard out to the beach to force people to leave?
Well,
Is that what
that's,
we're gonna do?
that's the next question, is enforcement. That's a very good question.
I am asking you all to support the message, the direction that all 6 municipalities, 5 other municipalities, county, Senator Benaquisto, our congressional leadership, this is the message that we are all singing. Beachfront is closed. It is closed to commercial enterprise. It is closed to recreational enterprise. It is closed to your personal enjoyment until further notice. And I certainly understand what Rexanne is saying, because that has been a critique from some people who have been very generous with their thoughts. Yeah, that was really diplomatic of me, wasn't it?
Diplomatic than they have been.
The fact of the matter is that when we on Friday met to declare an emergency, we did not know then what we know now. I did not know now what I knew yesterday. And if somebody can't accept that, quite honestly, it's unfortunate. However, I believe strongly that our message needs to be, if you are here on spring break, thank you for thinking of our community, and please continue to think of our community and go home. You need to be in your place so we can protect our place.
I don't disagree with that.
If you have reservations, travel to the town of Fort Myers Beach, thank you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you coming here year after year after year. But cancel your reservations. We cannot take care of you. We must take care of our community in the best way we can in order not to tax our public services. If you have friends, relatives, people you don't like that are thinking, hey, for a picnic, tell them not to. We cannot have them. Fort Myers Beach has been the most inclusive community I can even think about. We have to exclude people right now. And that includes our very valued friends, visitors, relatives. We must be excluded. We must protect our community. And the beach must be closed. We just want to share with you what else we talked about today. As to the beach, Rexanne, I just want to touch on that. There was a lot of discussion about people's mental health today because the claustrophobia of this is weighing already on folks. And first, it was, well, maybe we should allow people to take a stroll because it will clear their minds, ease their tensions. You know, to quote my father, it's like being a little bit pregnant. You're not. You are or you aren't. We can't just say, take a stroll, because that's not what happens. I mean, I know Rexanne was walking the beach yesterday morning, calling me from locations saying, you know, here's what it looks like. Today I probably have 100 photographs from people saying, here's what this section of the beach looks like, but it changed all day long. All day long it changed. I had a couple of TV reporters who have videotaped the beach. We cannot send a mixed message. Our message needs to be closed for business right now, folks. Spring break is over. Okay.
You have a second vote, Anita. You have never been more eloquent. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
And in a very critical time.
It's about being eloquent. We're all trying to just get this as right as we possibly can, as quickly as we possibly can, because as you have stated and as everyone has stated, this isn't about financial collapse. This isn't about economic losses. This is about lives.
The other thing about, Anita, about being a little bit pregnant, our beach is unique because people do own the beachfront. And so people will be fighting over, you know, I own 150 feet here, I'm still going to do this,
Yes,
I
they
own
will.
this, I own to the water, whatever. We're all in this together. The line in front of my house is going to keep me off of the property that I own, and I won't go on it, and I won't for the public good. Everybody must do the same.
I move on to a discussion of hurricane passes.
Chair, I'd like to, just while we're on this
Yes, go ahead.
topic of the beach versus big closure, walking, blah, blah. I'd like to hear the staff's position on this, to the practicalities of where we go with this.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I have talked to the West District captain and discussed how we would enforce a beach closure if that was the council's decision. Our conversation was that we would have a Lee County Sheriff's officer and one of our base officers riding together in a Kubota initially, to that message out very strongly to anyone that they encountered that would not be in compliance with whatever policy decision that the council took today. And then hopefully at some point down the road, our base officers would be sufficient to patrol beach in accordance with whatever policy is set forth today.
And about it, because I was with Rexanne yesterday and saying if you force them off the beach, some sidewalks or something. Apparently, where this is going is we want everybody gone. They want,
It's true, Bruce.
that's the objective.
That's correct.
Get everybody gone.
Let's talk about hurricane passes for a moment. Roger, I'd just like to hear, you and I didn't talk about that today, even though we did mention that people are asking that. You have a comment on that, Roger?
So the way it works in the case of this event or any other event is that if it gets to the point where we need to do some restrictive entry and reentry into the town, people with the current hurricane passes will be admitted. People without hurricane passes could provide utility bills or other regulatory types of identification, and they would be permitted. We have not had a run on people, you know, sort of coming in to get their passes. We've had a couple come in today, but hopefully by the actions the council takes today, we will be able to be in a position where we won't have to go to that extreme measure of limiting access to and from town.
Other questions about that? Other questions about the hurricane pass?
No, I agree. Let's let people know that that's in our pocket. If it's needed, we'll do that to protect them, but we're going to do that in the meeting.
I have tried to be very clear, and the reporters, Nestor, the people who have talked to me in the last few days, every single, whether you've heard it or not, every single person I have spoken to, I have said, everything is on the table. There's nothing being taken off the table at this point, and there still isn't. Still isn't. Let's talk about closing Times Square.
Not only that, Madam Chair, but you also defined it in here by date, by a date certain, where it's to end, and not to say that it couldn't be reviewed prior to that.
That's
By the
correct.
new council.
That's correct.
So we're not clamping it down forever. It's just to get us through this period here to see what's going to happen. So
That's right.
there's
That's
light
right.
at the end of the tunnel.
I still wouldn't be making the statement that everything is on the table. That's hyperbole, that's unnecessary.
Roxanne, it's not hyperbole.
It is.
Okay, well, you know what? Tomorrow, you're welcome to join in the call. It is not hyperbole. That, not just from me, that is coming, I mean, look, I lean to hyperbole, as everybody who's ever listened to me knows, but this is not. This is not just a statement. Period.
Remember the good old phrase, what's good for GM is good for America? Big car companies shut down. It's not small stuff.
Okay,
I
let's
agree, everything's on the table.
talk about Times Square. I just want to, again, state in the unified message, our fellow municipalities, Sanibel, Bonita Springs, Cape Coral, Village of Estero, City of Fort Myers, the discussion about restaurants, and which is what Times Square is, food shops, is currently being governed by the governor's order for social distancing, limiting occupancy. To give you a very particular example, I have 2 stores in Times Square. As of tonight, I'll have 1 store in Times Square. We are not, my store that will stay open is Local Color, may stay open. We are not allowing any more than 10 people in the door. I'll tell you that there have not been 10 people in the door. Everyone is taking this very seriously and following those guidelines. This was not on the table with the rest of the municipalities. I would be very hesitant to add it simply because of that county, city message. Just telling you what the conversation was today.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with sticking with the governor's recommendations on the restaurants and the stores. That will be another enforcement issue, which is kind of out of our control. But their licenses fall under different agencies anyhow. But I don't see a problem with that because from what I gather already, most of them are adhering to the recommendations, abiding by them accordingly. If it gets worse where they have to shut down or go to just the delivery and so forth, well, so be it. So be it. But I'm willing to just, now people will say, well, you're giving the restaurants and preferential treatment over the other businesses. Well, maybe a little bit. I mean, people have to eat.
How do you say that? I don't.
No, we're not.
Oh, no, people will say that. But,
I don't understand the comment.
people will say we're giving preferential treatment to the restaurants.
Did we close down everything else? I don't understand your.
I don't understand your question.
By not, I'll clarify it for you both. By not taking additional measures relative to the restaurants beyond what the governor has initialized, comment could be made that we're playing favorites.
But the other stores are staying open. Did we say that?
Stores open,
No, but
that's
there are
correct.
businesses that are being closed down. All those businesses on the beachfront are being closed down. I mean, so that's the,
I see your point now.
that's the feedback. That's what I was thinking about, those other businesses. But I won't belabor the restaurant. You know where I stand. So if that means keeping Times Square open at the moment, plus if this declaration is as effective as we think it may be with people getting the message to leave or not come back, traffic down there is going to decrease substantially.
Close their outdoor tables and things.
They've removed,
Right.
they've gone to 50% of their capacity. They have spaced the tables, the space guideline, I forgot, 6 feet apart. The tables, they have spaced the tables 6 feet apart. So they have followed the governor's directives.
They still have outside tables.
That's correct.
Well, since you have 3 people that go with that, and I would be stricter, then let me have another deeper conversation. I know Orlando has stopped bars within restaurants and the sale of alcohol at bars and put a curfew on. They say that that is where people gather. It's very hard to keep people apart at bars. So if you're going to keep bars and restaurants open, can we set a curfew on, put some limits on bar activity or something which is the greatest concentration of activity?
Roger, I think that there's some misunderstanding about bars. Could you clarify that?
It's my understanding that what you might call a standalone bar is closed by the governor's executive order.
Yes.
Mixed-use businesses where it's a restaurant that serves alcohol, the threshold is that establishment has to be 51% or more selling food and products versus alcohol, not to be considered a bar for the purposes of the governor's executive order. And could ask the town attorney if he agrees with that.
You concur, John?
Yes, ma'am. I have it right here under the direction of the governor this is from the Florida Department of Health official website. Governor DeSantis, all bars and nightclubs throughout Florida will close for the next 30 days. That's retroactive to, I think, 2 days ago. Department of Business and Professional Regulation will be enforcing and providing further guidance. It is 50%, the 50% rule. So 50% plus one of the revenue is derived from the sale of alcohol, then it qualifies as a bar nightclub subject to this restriction.
And I can also tell you that under Secretary, I keep saying under Secretary, under Sheriff Smith, yesterday did also inform us there would be very active patrolling of ABT on the beach, and that the stringency or the of their patrol would be a warning and closure. No 3 shots, hello, goodbye. It's also complaint driven in the event that any resident finds a situation they need to report.
Within our land development code, though, we have restaurants, and then they have bar sections within them with reduced parking and everything. We have established bars within restaurant facilities. How does that impact that? Within the restaurant that I'm talking about, that you referenced,
Right.
where people are gathered at the bar section, that is what I'm referencing.
That is, it depends upon the nature of the licensure that particular location has, and just generally what we refer to as the 4COP, consumption on premises. Again, if the bar is part of that restaurant, it is, and its licensure is for a restaurant that can sell alcohol as long as their percentages they're low, they are not subject to the closure requirement.
Joanne, I think you can also, the guidelines for restaurants, whether it's a bar restaurant or a restaurant, is, and the issue that Bruce raised today about bar stools at a bar, they are not following the guideline because it is a 6-foot separation. So if the bar in a restaurant is following the governor's guidelines, and that crowding, that massing will not occur. Again, they will be closed if they are not following that by ABT.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And I have every faith that the businesses on our island are going to respect the regulations.
I just clarify something. I may have just misspoken, Roger. I just said that they would be closed by ABT for spacing and the guidelines from the governor. I don't know if that's an accurate statement I just made, so let me just clarify that and tell you that
ABT, BAT?
alcohol back.
BAT.
Yes, okay.
Alcohol, beverages.
I don't know if that's an accurate statement.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, I think that aspect of the compliance with the governor's order will be handled by the people who do the restaurant inspections.
That's what they said, that's right.
So that's where that spacing issue will be addressed and enforced if necessary.
Okay. So the next thing is a curfew. Curfew was also discussed yesterday in our conversations yesterday. It is not on the table currently for any of the other municipalities, and this was as of 2 o'clock, or Lee County. However, with that said, you'll notice that we have a clause in here asking people to limit their, did they
That was
eliminate that?
yesterday's.
That was yesterday.
And we left it out.
You know, and that's, Roger, we were talking about that today. We left it out because what we want people to do is just not be outside, not be around anyway. But the curfew is not, this moment, there is not a curfew that is being initiated by the Lee County Sheriff's Office. Gentlemen, shake your heads if you know something I don't know. And not being issued by any of the other municipalities or by Lee County.
Can we put in here, though, that if Lee County establishes a curfew, that we'll follow that curfew, so that we don't have to have a
Part of Lee County,
meeting?
we don't have to restate it. If they establish a curfew that's countywide, it's countywide.
Great, I want that clarified. That's great. Thank you, Rick.
You know what, the practicalities of it, though, if our resident population and visitors down here, for the most part, not the ones that are out at 10 o'clock at night. The ones that are out at 10 o'clock and past at night are the spring breakers, our kids that are coming down here, and they're out having fun. And who could blame them? Without a beach out front, go to in the daytime, without a bar to go to in the evening, no reason for them to be out there at 10 o'clock for the most part. I don't know why, in God's name, they would be. So, you know, unless, well, I guess there are some other ways and other things, but for the most part, I think that's almost moot at this point.
Ultimately, again, I have on the list, what does the beach being closed mean? It means, like that door is closed, beach is closed. It means that, I stated earlier, that our guests on the island right now, especially, to say this, spring breakers, are encouraged to return to their homes. Beaches closed, period. This morning, I probably spoke to 10 people, about 8:30 or so. They were walking on the beach. These are individuals. Saying, are we allowed to be on the beach? And I said, yes, of course. Strike that. No, you are not. No, you're not. Our beach accesses will be closed, not just to parking, access. Lee County parks, Bowditch, Crescent, Lynn Hall, beach accesses that belong to Lee County on the north end of the island are closed, not just to parking, and the pier, not just to parking, access. As you heard Roger say, Lee County Sheriff's Office, Captain Herdrick, tomorrow there will be a deputy accompanying one of our base units, patrolling the beach, telling people that the beach is closed. That is until further notice. There is not a termination date on that. My greatest hope that we, instead of, Joanne, I just wanted to tell you something I said yesterday, and don't take it, we're 3 weeks behind Italy. I'm hoping that we may be 3 weeks ahead of Italy because we have the benefit of their experience and we are getting ahead of the curve as best we can. The only way we can do that is with the cooperation of the people who love Fort Myers Beach, and that's why they come here. And we hope that they will do the courtesy of returning at some point in time, leaving now.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I just got a couple of requests over the phone here. The vendors that just want a chance to remove their equipment by tomorrow. What they're asking.
That is going to fall onto Roger's lap and enforcement opportunities. This has been a notice since yesterday. I know that Jackie Lisek with the Chamber has been reaching out to as many people as she can. I've spoken to several hoteliers, the larger properties today, giving them a heads up as to what this means. It was gray yesterday, it's black and white today.
Well, I think that's exactly why they're asking, because it was gray yesterday.
Yes.
Now it is black and white, so they need a little more time to get their stuff out. So, I mean, I think that's reasonable.
I'm sure Roger will help them accomplish that. Are we clear on these issues? Do we have, Sam, I know you're frustrated by this. I know you are.
I just feel a great deal of pressure here because I know there's a great deal of pressure for this to be a unanimous vote. And I feel that we are, especially in one area, going way too far.
Which is that?
That is that we are telling the people who live on this island that they cannot walk down the street, walk onto a beach access, and walk down the beach. It rings of martial law. It grates on every fiber of my being as an attorney.
Sir, I'll ask you to leave the room. Thank you.
It's not,
Go ahead, Roxanne.
I think I've made my feelings known, but I just want to tell you that I'm sitting here feeling a great deal of conflict.
Can I just say something about that too? Please, yesterday, please, if you've got criticism of one of my fellow council members, would you please share it with someone other than me? Because Roxanne has her opinion and is entitled to it, and it represents, as you just saw, many people's view. Joanne, on the other end of the spectrum, represents many people's view. But Roxanne, it is so important right now, not only that you echo your concern, the gentleman and others like him just left, but we have got to say this together. If you don't, don't in good conscience feel as if you can, I certainly understand that. I don't want you criticized for your comments. I don't want Joanne criticized for her comments or anybody else, because this has been an event in our lives like none other. And, I said the other day, someone took exception to me saying the armchair quarterbacks that get to sit at their computers and send out emails criticizing the words we've chosen, the actions we've taken. This has been a 24-hour-a-day commitment, not just by me, but by every member of this council and every member of our staff. Make the best possible decisions we can for the people of this community, and quite honestly, for the people who are visiting our community, because we take their lives serious too.
If you don't close the beach, lose the disincentive to get people to not come here.
That's correct. That's correct.
So it has to be.
Roxanne, I understand how it's to vote for something you don't, but please understand I'm voting for something I don't fully support either. It doesn't go as far as I would like. It goes further than you would. This is what we're here for. Have the best that we can come and work to come to a general agreement for the rest of the community.
Tried to outline as best we can in this declaration of emergency regulations the statements that have been echoed from the president, governor, Lee County Commission, and all of the municipalities in Lee County. I think it's comprehensive. What I'd like to ask you, Mr. Herron, you said that there were some things that you feel still need tweaking. Joanne brought up the description, and folks, I'm going to open public comment. I just want to give Mr. Herron an opportunity to comment, and we'll take a break, and we'll come back.
I ask Mr. Herron a question.
Yes.
It's my understanding that under Florida law that I have no option about abstaining, that I cannot abstain.
That is correct. Absent a conflict of interest that is readily apparent that you declare, you have all of you have an affirmative obligation to vote on a matter before you. If that is to vote against it, that is
Roxanne, you have to vote your
what our
conscience.
democracy is about.
You have to vote your conscience, Roxanne. There's nobody in.
Well, the reason I was asking about abstaining is that I would like to not be voting against you. But still,
I wouldn't take it that way.
but
Let me tell you something, Rick, Councilwoman. Make you feel any better, maybe it won't. I've had some of the same feelings as you. I mean, I've been on this beach for, and no one's ever told me that I can't walk out on that beach. And if they had, I'd have taken offense at it. But these are times, this is a time in our lives when everything's totally different. Everything's totally different, and our options are limited. It's not going to be for a long time, but I'll just go back to what I said yesterday. My guiding beacon in all of this is Dr. Fauci from the National Institutes of Health, CDC, whichever one he's with now, or the president's top advisor in this matter. And he has constantly said during his interviews is that he wants to be the guy that they said went too far. He was too conservative. He was too conservative. He wants to be that guy. And I don't know that I wanted to be that guy, but now I'm starting to feel like I do want to be that guy. So if it makes you feel any better, I've had the same thoughts about restricting the access to the beach. And I'm of a mind now where we have to, because if you do it half, well, in the word, you don't do it at all. And that's really where we're at right now. I sympathize with your feelings. I don't know if that makes you feel any better, but and you vote as you will, but you see where we're headed. Where we're
I
Oh,
see where you're headed.
Well, I know you do.
Okay, so, Mr. Herron,
Yes, ma'am.
just want the public to know, I'll read this in just a moment after public comment, or maybe I should read it before public comment, so you know. Want to say something first?
Yeah. In number 4, you have to be clear and say it's closed.
Yes.
It's not there.
Okay.
And closed should be noted as no one is allowed on the beach, something like that, to make sure we understand what closed.
Do you see that? That's page
Yeah,
2 of 3, number 4.
Actually, what I would suggest is that the document be modified to state now therefore be it resolved One, following events and activities within the town of Fort Myers Beach are postponed, canceled, closed, or suspended, and then we list A, B, C, D, and instead of it being 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So those will be converted to letters, and all those activities then there are therefore postponed, canceled, closed, or suspended.
Again, you have to identify closed means to me. That means you don't.
And it would be closed, all public beaches and beach accesses in the town of Fort Myers Beach are closed, comma, the beach defined as an area, and it would then
I think
run.
what Bruce is saying is, what does closed mean? It means no walking, it means zero access.
Not allowed on the beach.
There's an issue here with this wording. It has to be all public and private beach, and beach accesses. I own 200 feet out. I won't go out on it. My grandkids and my kids are not coming.
Right, but at the bottom of it, it describes the beach from Bowditch to Carlos Pass.
Okay,
It's,
clarify that.
it's private too, because you're gonna have a lot of businesses and other people say, I own it.
Joanne,
Doesn't matter. It's the EC line.
yes, that's right, it's the EC line.
All the sand.
Sand. Okay, I'm gonna read you briefly, I'm gonna read this to you all, just so you have something to comment on that you know that we're looking at. Okay? This is a declaration of emergency regulations. COVID-19 state of emergency, March 19th, 2020. Whereas novel coronavirus disease 2019, or COVID-19, is a severe acute respiratory illness that can spread among humans through respiratory transmission and other potential methods and present symptoms similar to those of influenza. Whereas in December of 2019, a new and substantial outbreak of COVID-19 emerged in Wuhan, China, and has since spread rapidly to 150 countries and territories throughout the world, including the United States, and more specifically, Lee County and 18 other counties in Florida. John, I want you to, can you just verify the 18, because I think it might be more than that now,
Yeah.
of the 64 counties. Whereas on March 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. Whereas Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is predicting that it is likely that widespread transmission of COVID-19 will also occur in the United States. Whereas no vaccine or drug is currently available to cure or combat COVID-19. Whereas the town of Fort Myers Beach is threatened by COVID-19 because of the ability of the virus to spread rapidly amongst humans. And COVID-19 thereby constitutes a clear and present threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens and visitors to Fort Myers Beach. Whereas the CDC has issued guidelines for community mitigation strategies to limit the spread of COVID-19, including recommendations for social distancing, which has proven to be an effective method for containing COVID-19. Whereas President Trump issued an executive order regarding COVID-19, Governor DeSantis has issued executive orders 2051, 2052, and 2068. The Lee County Board of County Commissioners and the town of Fort Myers Beach have resolutions regarding COVID-19 declaring states of emergency and authorizing, in accordance with Section 252.38 of the Florida statutes, that each political subdivision within the state has the right to waive the procedures and formalities otherwise required of the political subdivision by law pertaining to performance of public work and taking whatever prudent action is necessary to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Whereas pursuant to the Town of Fort Myers Beach Charter, and in 1219 through 1225 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, in the event of a proclamation of a state of emergency by the governor, the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach is empowered to Now therefore be it resolved that the following events and activities within the town of Fort Myers Beach are postponed, canceled, suspended, or closed. This is where you want to renumber this. So I'll just, this is final form. I'm giving you what we're looking at. All regulatory meetings of the town boards, including all advisory and statutory boards, town committees, and town working groups. All special events within the town of Fort Myers Beach. All public gatherings of any type, whether organized or otherwise, of greater than 10 persons are prohibited. All bars and restaurants, you know what, bars needs to come out of this. I wonder if well, I'm going to read you what we have. We may want to, question number 3. All bars and restaurants and other like entertainment facilities and businesses must adhere to the latest state executive orders and mandates by Governor Ron DeSantis. All public beaches and beach accesses in the town of Fort Myers Beach are closed. Beach is defined as the area of sand along the Gulf of Mexico. This is a political description, and it needs to change. The EC zone.
Yes.
All town parks, including recreational and cultural facilities and programs, are closed. All citizens and visitors of the town of Fort Myers Beach are directed to comply with these emergency regulations and necessary measures, which shall be strictly enforced, and to cooperate with public officials and public safety personnel in executing any emergency operational plans, and to obey and comply with the lawful direction of all properly identified public officers. In accordance with Section 1225 of the Town Charter of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, any violation of the rule or regulation issued and set forth herein shall be punishable by a fine of $5,000. This will be effective starting 6 p.m. on Thursday, March 19th, 2020, until further notice. I'm going to take public comment. Anyone who would like to speak? Amy? Oh, to this. Mr. Heim.
Thank you, John Heim, longtime resident, over 35 years. It's usually me coming up here about water quality. Things have obviously dramatically changed. Could not be more proud of the work of this council. And I know we've had differences in the past. Just like your shirt says, Joanne, the way you spoke yesterday was very eloquent and emotional. And that's what we need to buy into. This is our town. This is where we live. Okay, these are where our children grow up, and we have to protect them. Rexanne, I know you're highly emotional about, closing the beaches. But the reality is, we have to protect ourselves at all costs. I know that comes from the most unlikeliest sources of myself, who comes up here as a combative person to the council for the most part. But the reality is, we have to protect our home. We cannot have people from the outside areas come into this beach and congregate in areas such as the Lani Kai and get others sick. It's the bottom line. We have to protect our home. If we don't, then it's going to be our own faults. We have to answer to our own children that we didn't do the right thing. So I applaud Miss Mayor. And I know that seems odd, the way we had our deliberations in the past few years, but she is an incredible leader in this particular fight right now. Everyone up here is in agreement to close the beaches, and I am too. You know how hard it is for me to not be able to go to the beach? I go to the beach every single day to monitor and observe the water. But I know that if I go out there, chances are that more people are going to come, and more people are going to come, and more people are going to come. If we don't stop it now, then what? It only infects more people. We have to take care of ourselves. I'm not saying that in a selfish way. It's a global event. We all feel bad for everybody. I'm almost in tears because I love this town so much, and we have to protect it. And sure, I'm extremely emotional for the whole world, but we have to take measures to protect our home. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else who'd like to speak? Mr. Melsick? That microphone isn't on, if you'll just go right there. Hello?
My name is Lee Malsick. I've lived on the beach for 65 years. My parents were business people here on what is now called Times Square. You've kind of ruined my speech here today because I get the feeling you're going to close the beaches, and I came to ask you to do that. But I have to tell you that I share some concern with Rexanne. I too get this feel of martial law here. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out how you get past that. You know, like Ray over there, I too take a lot of direction from Dr. Fossey. And Dr. Fossey issued a guideline that I guess you've instituted in some parts of the beach. You might want to consider here when you're closing the beach, and that is the idea of banning groups of 10 or more. That's been his guideline. I think you may have some problem when you tell Mr. and Mrs. Jones, who are 75 years old and been walking that beach every morning for 20 years, they can't go out and walk that beach. I'm not so sure they shouldn't be able to do that. I can tell you my parents would have been out there walking the beach regardless of your ban and probably would have been arrested. Which raises another question, because I don't know what you're going to do about it when you catch Mr. and Mrs. Jones out there walking the beach and something. Arrest them. So as long as you're going to have some kind of patrol out there on the beach, I understand that you're going to have a deputy or two, you're going to have beach patrol. As long as you're going to have that, you may want to consider the alternative of watching for groups of 10 or more. But this idea of telling Mr. and Mrs. Jones down on Pearl Street, I grew up, that they can't be there and go home, and they want to argue about it, not a problem. Now, I fully agree with Joanne's position from the beginning. Remember, Fossey said on March 3rd, this virus is 10 times deadlier than the flu. That's your starting point here. Very little needs to be said after that. But this idea of kicking Mr. and Mrs. Jones off their morning walk, you might want to reconsider, because it does have the feel, as Roxanne said, of martial law.
Thank you,
And
Lee.
you don't want people like that.
We don't want them to feel anything bad, but who else would like to speak? Ron?
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, council people, Madam Clerk, Mr. Manager, Esquire. First of all, thank you for your leadership in these trying times. There are those who will say whatever it is you do, it's not enough. There are others who will say you're hysterical and overreacting. We are in a worldwide deadly pandemic. What you are trying to do is get ahead of the curve as constantly. What you are doing is absolutely necessary, in my opinion. As to martial law, it's my thought and belief that that's coming. Maybe not this week, maybe in a couple weeks. have been reports of elements of the military are pre-positioning equipment. Orders have been cut. So everything that we are doing here today may be preceded by a national order. Again, thank you for your leadership, Mr. Butcher, Mayor, Councilmember Shamp. Thank you for your time serving our town. Greatly appreciated. I believe you are doing the right thing. Councilmember Hosfras, as far this vote does not have to be unanimous, only has to be a simple majority. It's a vote that I believe that needs.
Thank you, Ron. Anyone else who'd like to speak? Anyone? I'll close the public. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name's Bob Oakes, and I've really got less right to speak here than most other folks do.
No, sir, you have every right.
Only been here for
And
6
what
weeks.
was your name, sir?
Bob Oakes.
Bob Oakes. Nice to meet you.
As I said, I've only been here for about 6 weeks. Here. A rude shock to business. Public policy, in my experience, is a balance, competing good values. I think you understand where your heart is. Public health is an important piece. You're on the verge of causing some economic damage to your town. Salute public health. We'll have different tolerances for risk in our society. Our society has generally allowed people to take some of those risks. That out on the highway, Fort Myers has its own risk as well, just recently. If you feel they're at substantial risk, they do have the option of staying home. Food, Amazon. You can watch the board meeting on YouTube. See the manager and the attorney sitting here and they're less than 6 feet apart and jerk off. Those things are, I'll accept those risks. Somebody has been pretty good about allowing those. You're about to take action that honestly my home county has already taken some of those out. Those are the bridges coming into the county. And we're truly serious about this. But it can't be a porous in and out piece. That virus is here. It's not a question of whether it's here or not. It is here. I said I'm from Dare County. Company's the largest employer in Dare County. We discussed laying off half of our staff today. Our revenue coming in, half staff. A lot of people are going to be in that position.
Yes.
What's the trigger? I guess one of my questions is, what is the trigger for reopening? Like for y'all to think ahead. What's the end game? Just what the immediate, urgent piece of action is. As I said, I've got a lot of empathy for your position. Did serve as an elected official in Nick's head and sat in the mayor's chair for. Get it. It's you're not going to make everybody happy. Thank you for your leadership and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate you being here. I was just reading about your county last night, and some dreadful images coming there that certainly don't look like, I'm certain, what you're accustomed to, being so vibrant. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Seeing none, I'm closing the public comment. Council, is there any comments, or can we take a 15-minute recess? Mr. Heron, is that adequate time for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Gwen?
Now, it's not with regard to the wording. Are we going to put electronic signage at
I
our
was,
bridges?
I'm sorry, I blew over that because it's already in place. So,
Okay, good, thank you.
The county is placing, what do they call it, Roger? Yeah,
Electronic signs?
The
Variable message sign.
Variable
a variable message sign at the base of the bridge. Not just here, Nita Springs, Annabelle, Boca Grands is already in place. The beach access signage, Joanne, Roger is already preparing that. It says simply, the beach access is closed. The up-to-date emergency information on the town website is certainly being accomplished. There's something else that we missed here.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
go ahead, Bruce.
Are you saying the beach access is closed or the beach is closed?
Beach is closed, and the beach accesses, our beach accesses, are closed.
I just, on the sign, it ought to be saying the beach is closed.
Yes, it should, Roger.
We have we have segmented the message instead of one big sign into 3 signs so that as it got clarified today, we knew what to put. So it's saying the access is closed, and now we know also adjacent sign to it will say the beach is closed. That's the final action of the council tonight.
And are you going to post that at other locations like Drawbridge and down there where?
Well, it's my understanding the county's going to have a variable message sign for people coming over the bridge, and we'll see what they do on the south end, and we'll react accordingly.
When they, in this message sign will say the beach is closed? Is
Yes.
that what, okay.
I think it specifically says all Lee County beaches are closed.
And Mayor, one of the other points that someone brought up, well, we have already taken measures to put up signage in front of every business on St. Carlos, every restaurant in front of St. Carlos Boulevard that has a restaurant, that reserve a minimum of 1 parking spot in front of that would normally be metered to be for pickup, takeout business, pickup business in front of that, the front door of that particular restaurant. So it will be 10 minutes of free parking. That spot will be reserved for people to make up pickups from that restaurant, takeout meals.
And I'm looking at waive the sign ordinance for restaurants providing delivery and takeout. I don't know that we have to take official action on that, but Roger's effectively doing that. Then the question of closing Old San Carlos parking meters. There are still people who are going to either have to go to work, have the ability to go to work is probably more clear stated. But I wouldn't want to support closing those parking meters simply because, I mean, if we want to close the parking meters and not charge for parking, that would be the effect. I certainly could support that. But anybody else want to close those parking meters on Old San Carlos Boulevard? Or she added also under the bridge?
I wanted to reserve that for restaurants to be able to do their takeout. All those spots.
already
That's
been-
why.
Okay.
That's why I thought this should be.
Okay.
Roger, are there going to be barricades at the beach parking access so people can't, at the,
Yes.
can't drive cars in there?
They're already there. They're just pushed off to the side. You could see them as you were driving down the
I
boulevard
did.
today.
Know that whether they were going to be to block the traffic or to block the,
Roxanne, you have anything? Ray, anything? Susan?
Actually, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
This says it takes effect at 6 p.m. on Thursday, March 19th.
Yeah, that's the incorrect date. Yes, that is correct date.
So we're giving people, today's Thursday, right? We're giving people less than 2 hours' notice? Be thrown off the beach?
The actuality of that, Roxanne, is that yesterday, Lee County issued this order. Yesterday, Lee County said the beaches would be closed as of 6 p.m. today. So it's, again,
Get it?
Going to take a 15-minute recess. It's 4:15. We'll reconvene at 4:30. Thank you all.
That was
There,
funny.
there you
I still have a problem that it
go.
doesn't.
Okay, well, let me recall the meeting. Amy? Thank you, everyone, for your patience. So we have a revised declaration of emergency regulations. Bruce?
I still have a problem with the definition of closed beach. We don't specify that that means no one is allowed on the sand. Closed to me means the store is not open. It means the Anikai isn't selling beer on the sand. It means surf rentals or ski rentals aren't available. That's what closed means to me when I read this. Closed, what we mean is nobody is allowed on the beach. I think that has to be said clearly.
And I agree with Bruce. And so can we edit E? Or can we?
Beaches and beach accesses and town from Marsh Beach and all activities and persons.
Not allowed on the beach.
Not allowed.
So,
On the sand.
if I may, all beaches and beach access in the town of Fort Myers Beach hereby closed. That's proper, because we're closing them. And closed. And all activities and persons on the beach and within the EC zoning district of the town are
Prohibited.
prohibited.
I didn't like the way that read. I think you have to say that again.
Paragraph E will read, subject to council approval, all beaches and beach accesses in the town of Fort Myers Beach are closed, period. All activities on the beach and within the EC zoning district, all activities and persons on the beach and within the EC zoning district of the town are prohibited. This is not the correct version because the reference to the EC zoning district also will have inserted as a parenthetical, generally the C word of the coastal construction control line.
Right.
And maybe even a little bit more plain English for everybody else. Even if you can boil it down a little.
I would say no persons or activities are allowed on the beach.
It's fine.
Would you put, so Bruce, would you have all beaches and beach access to the town of Fort Myers Beach are closed? No persons or activities are permitted on the beach? Because this is the beach, right? Should we say Sandy Beach?
The beach is defined.
The beach is defined as the area of sand.
Yeah.
Okay. So may I ask, you said,
Then after the word vegetation, in material or physiological form or to the line of permanent vegetation, where would you put the generally,
At the end of the paragraph that says no persons or activities
okay,
are permitted on the beach and within the EC zoning district of the town. And it would be a parenthetical, generally C word of the
Okay.
coastal.
I would capitalize no persons or activities.
I agree.
Okay, bold it, capitalize it.
Anyone have any other comment on this? I'd like to bring up Chief Love from the Fire District. Chief, I hate to put you on the spot, but you've been with us, with Roger and I, for the last 2 days, and I'm just wondering if you might share your thoughts.
Done. Just a second.
Yep, okay.
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Council and staff and community, thank you for being here. First of all, thank you. I appreciate your leadership. As many have said, a lot of my comments certainly maybe even concede extreme on the public health side, on the public safety side, and it's certainly what Councilwoman Champ has spoken to. We're tasked with maintaining the public health for this community, and we don't take that task lightly by any means, and that's not just fire, because this community is blessed with having its own ambulance service by the fire department. And so times like these, probably, as the mayor said, she talks to me on the phone and she can sense the tenseness in my voice. It's because I have this duty and this responsibility to protect our community, and I know certain things can challenge that, challenge our resources. This is certainly a public health event, and we run a emergency public health system. So I appreciate and applaud your efforts in trying to decrease the population on the beach. It's somewhat reminiscent of when we're talking about hurricane reentry. And we were talking about that a couple years ago, and we discussed that tough decision we make of when to let the community back on the island and when not to. And I remember sitting here a couple of years ago with Captain Powell from the sheriff's office saying, we have to guarantee we can protect them if we tell them they can come back on. And if we can't protect them, we shouldn't wave the flag and say, come on back on. They're used to a certain level of service that we provide, that law enforcement provides. And if any of us feel that feeling like we can't provide that same level of service, we're hesitant to tell them, come on back on. And that's kind of exactly what we're facing right now with large amounts of people on the beach or the spring break population. We certainly have influx in public safety resources, but they are getting strapped. We are getting lower on some of our personal protective equipment for our firefighters. We're changing our procedures to make sure our paramedics are attending to patients very differently than they're used to. We're the epitome of a customer service organization. We want to be right there giving you a hug and helping you to the ambulance, and our paramedics can't do that right now. They have to attend to our community from 6 feet away, wearing gear until they know what the situation is, and that's different for our folks. And we're trying to both cater to that community need as well as protect the responders, because if our responders get ill, if our responders have problems, that certainly dominoes. And that dominoes to our hospital system, it dominoes to the public health system in general. So I applaud your efforts. I know these are difficult choices to make, as the mayor said the other day. Difficult on one hand because you have people that you care about, and not so difficult on the other hand because we have the responsibility as government sometimes to step in and make the tough call, whether we are ridiculed for it tomorrow or not. So I appreciate it. I know Councilwoman Frass has said earlier, asking us to ask you for certain things. I don't think I have to, because I think you're taking great initiatives to help us out. We are hoping we're being proactive enough to decrease that population so we can maintain the quality level of service our communities use. It's going to be tough, and it's changing by the minute. Our folks are getting new directives every day on how to respond to our community, but please know that the Fort Myers Beach Fire Department is doing everything within our capability to take care of this community, and I thank each and every one of you for doing the same thing to try and make it easier for us to do that. Any questions for me, ma'am?
Any questions for the chief? Lynn?
No, I just want to thank you, your staff, the entire fire department, police, healthcare system. You are on the front line. Our government workers, our government and staff here, everybody who's serving the public in these difficult times, thank you so much. You're putting yourselves at risk, just being out there and not being able to self-isolate, and it's greatly appreciated. And God bless you all, and stay safe. Stay well.
Other questions? Roxanne, any questions for the chief?
No questions. Thank you for your
Ray?
service.
Questions?
Thanks so much, Chief. Appreciate it.
Bruce?
Thank you. No.
Going beyond and above and beyond, well, I don't know that it is above and beyond your duty. This is your bag. Thank you for sharing our burden. Okay, so I'd like to read this again into the record. I just want to make sure that this particular paragraph, John, letter E, please.
I understand it. You want it to now read, all beaches and period. No person or activities are permitted on the beach and of the town. in parentheses, generally seaward of the coastal construction line. As far as the what before you is
I'm going to read it again. And when it comes to that paragraph, John, I'm going to stop and pause and allow you to read it, okay?
absolutely.
This is our final version. Declaration of Emergency Regulations, COVID-19 State of Emergency, March 19th, 2020. Whereas the novel coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 is a severe acute respiratory illness that can spread among humans through respiratory and other potential methods and presents symptoms similar to those of influenza. Whereas in December of 2019, a new and substantial outbreak of COVID-19 emerged in Wuhan, China, and has since spread rapidly to over 150 countries and territories throughout the world, including the United States, and more specifically, Lee County and 30 other counties in the Whereas on March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. Whereas the Centers for Disease Control Prevention is predicting that it is likely that widespread transmission of COVID-19 will also occur in the United States. Whereas no vaccine or drug is currently available to cure or combat COVID-19. Whereas the town of Fort Myers Beach is threatened by COVID-19 because of the ability of the virus to spread rapidly among humans, and COVID-19 thereby constitutes a clear and present threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens and visitors of the town of Fort Myers Beach. Whereas the CDC has issued guidelines for community mitigation strategies to limit the spread of COVID-19, including recommendations for social distancing, which has proven to be an effective method for containing COVID-19. Whereas President Trump issued a proclamation declaring a national emergency concerning the novel coronavirus disease, COVID-19 outbreak. Governor DeSantis has issued Executive Orders 2051, 2052, and 2068. The County Board of County Commissioners adopted Resolution 2003-18, declaring a state of emergency and subsequently closing all county beaches and parks. The Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach adopted Resolution 2013 regarding COVID-19, declaring a state of emergency and authorizing, in accordance with Section 252.38 Florida statutes, waiving of the procedures and formalities otherwise required of the political subdivision by law pertaining to the performance of public work and taking whatever prudent action is necessary to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of this community. And whereas pursuant to the Town of Fort Myers Beach Charter in Sections 1219 through 1225 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, in the event of a proclamation of a state of emergency by the governor, the Town Council of Fort Myers Beach is empowered to take all prudent actions necessary to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Now therefore be it resolved. Following events and activities within the town of Fort Myers Beach are postponed, canceled, suspended, or closed. All regular meetings of the town boards, including all advisory and statutory boards, town committees, and town working groups. All town special events. All public gatherings of any type, whether organized or otherwise, of greater than 10 persons are prohibited. All restaurants and other like entertainment facilities and businesses shall adhere to the latest state executive orders and mandates by Governor Ron DeSantis.
All beaches and beach accesses in the town of Fort Myers Beach are closed. No persons or activities are permitted on the beach and within the EC zoning district of the town, generally seaward of the coastal construction control line. The beach is defined as the area of sand along the Gulf of Mexico that extends landward from the mean low water line to the place where there's a marked change in material or physiographic form or the line of permanent vegetation within the territorial boundaries of the town of Fort Myers Beach from Bowditch Point, the precise longitude and latitude, to San Carlos Point, again with a precise longitude and latitude.
All town parks, including recreational and cultural facilities and programs, are closed. All residents and visitors of the town of Fort Myers Beach are directed to comply with these emergency regulations and necessary measures which shall be strictly enforced, and to cooperate with public officials and public safety personnel in executing any emergency operational plans, and to enjoy and comply, no, not to enjoy, to obey and comply with the lawful direction of all properly identified public officers. In accordance with applicable state law, sections 1-12 and 1225 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, and Article 5 of Chapter 2 of the Land Development Code of Fort Myers Beach, any violation of any rule or regulation issued and set forth herein may be punishable by fine up to $5,000. This will be effective at 6 p.m. today, March 19th, 2020, until further notice. I'm speaking this in the form of a motion, and I would appreciate a second.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, and there's discussion. Joanne, as the seconder, would you start discussion?
I concur. Thank you.
Bruce?
One question. On the page 1, down at the bottom paragraph, midway through, it says, Town Council of Fort Myers Beach adopted resolution. Is this resolution 2013?
2013 was Friday's state of emergency, is that correct?
That is correct.
Correct.
Ray?
With any luck whatsoever, and with the help of God, this will be a temporary situation, and we'll look back on this one day and see what we went through. But no objection whatsoever to this declaration.
Sam?
The declaration indicates prudent action necessary. I think we are exceeding prudent action necessary and trampling on people's individual rights when we say that someone cannot go in their own backyard. I am in favor of a great majority of this, but I cannot not agree with that section that says that we are possibly going to fine someone up to $5,000 if we catch them walking on the beach. Or even maybe just go out their back door into their own backyard.
Okay.
It's exceeding what we should be doing.
Okay. I'm going to call a roll call vote. I made the motion and my vote is yes. Joanne?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Ray?
Aye.
Roxanne?
Vote no purely because of Section E.
The motion carries. And I thank you all very much.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
excuse me for interrupting. Before you conclude, there was a question earlier about the passes, the hurricane passes, reentry passes this year. These are the ones that are the same as last year. There was a question as to what color they are. These are they. So, well, thank you.
If it comes to that,
If it comes, yeah,
we're not at that
I'm by no means saying that,
No,
but
they
there was
they
just a
don't need to
question.
come to town hall because they're licensed and everything else, but you're answering their question, I
Or-
understand.
These are the ones we'll be using for hurricane season this year.
That's true. Before I close the meeting, it's a 4-1 vote. I want everyone to respect the comments and the decisions of all 5 of us because we stand together. I also want to be abundantly clear that we are stating that spring break is effectively over in the town of Fort Myers Beach, and we are encouraging our spring break to bring life to this community like no one else. We are encouraging you, asking you, please return home. 5:06 p.m. and
Not only were you telling the spring breakers here, and I'll reiterate your comments, Madam Chairman, we love having the kids here. We love having their youthful life. They bring life to the beach and invigorates all of us. We love having them here. But not only are we telling them that it's time to go home, we're also sending a clear message to the ones that are still up north that are thinking about coming down here to stay home.
the beach is closed.
It's closed. This is no place for you right now. We will welcome you with open arms again when this is all over. But this is it for this year. And we're sorry about that, but that's just the way it is. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You all received correspondence from me earlier today regarding a letter that was sent by the Florida League of Cities to Governor DeSantis about potentially going to virtual town hall meetings. It has been a recurring topic of discussion amongst city and county attorneys throughout the state. The most recent correspondence that I've received on the issue is that the governor and the attorney general were supposed to be meeting this afternoon to discuss that issue and potentially revise the existing executive orders, emergency orders to allow local governments to meet their statutory obligation to comply with the Sunshine Law, but also conform to the most recent updates on what is actions to prohibit or limit the spread of COVID-19. And hopefully we'll get some guidance on that issue, and we'll forward that to you as soon as possible, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Herring. Is there anything else? 5:07, may I have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
There's a motion by Councilmember Shamp and seconded by Councilmember Hossafras. Discussion, motion carries, and it's 5:08. We stand adjourned.